And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs across the glass.
John, it's almost been a year since Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara enacted his sustainable insurance strategy. And a year later, it's harder to get insurance in California.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
Okay, on the subject of that guy, how much money did he spend on car services when he was in Colombia for a conference and billed the state for?
That's right.
Wasn't it like $12,000?
It was a ridiculous amount of money on taxis in a country where taxis are very, very cheap.
So Brazil is apparently more expensive than Colombia, or let's just say they're comparable. It took $3.50 to go across town in an Uber Black.
Well, and we had a call from someone who lives in Ecuador that's like, I know what it costs in Ecuador and I know what it costs in Colombia. There's no way you could spend thousands of dollars on taxis unless, you know, you were riding with very special cargo.
All right, we're taking your calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. The president has floated the idea of 50-year mortgages. That just doesn't seem like a good idea to me. Although, if you can't get in to a house on a 30-year mortgage and you're willing to do it to become a homeowner, I guess I can't stand in the way. I wouldn't do it. Maybe you would. What say you? At 800-222-5222. Let's go to Catherine in Los Altos. Catherine, hello.
Hi. I'm a realtor in Northern California. And the truth is that very few people pay off a 30-year mortgage. They usually move every 8 years on average. So they're paying off they're paying it off at the sale. And the 50-year mortgage is brilliant because it just amortizes the payments over a long period of time and makes them lower. Also, people don't need to put 20% down. You can get a mortgage for 3%. So, there are a lot of options.
Every time I have purchased a house, and granted, I've only become a homeowner after everything crashed in 2008, but 20% was what the bank required. Now, I went through a credit union, so maybe that's different than a standard bank. And my first purchase was on Indian lease land, and that's a whole separate situation. But 20% was non-negotiable when I was speaking to the lender. Is that something that's new now where they are willing to accept less?
No, I mean, it's not new at all. When we had the financial crisis, people were putting zero down, So it's just there's lots of options. You need to talk to a loan broker. Sometimes if you go to a place like a credit union or a bank, they only have one product. And loan brokers have a lot of different products. So, lenders want to lend money. They want to make money. So there are a lot of options.
All right. Thank you for the call. Let's go to John in the East Bay. John, hello.
Hi. I'm a real estate broker, been in the business for 48 years, and I kind of agree with your last caller. And I'll tell you why. I've got a mortgage calculator in front of me, and a 30-year fixed at 6% for $1 million versus 50 years. On a 50-year, you're going to pay $726 a month less. But you can get the same loan, and it wouldn't be stated for 50 years, but you can get an interest-only loan for probably 5 or 7 years, and your payment is going to be almost $1,000 a month less. Also, on a traditional 30-year loan, at the end of 15 years, you still, if it was $1 million at the end of 15 years, you still owe $820,000. So if you go interest-only or a 50-year loan, you don't care about principal pay down. You make the money on the appreciation. That's the benefit of getting into a house under those terms, as opposed to, I don't see any reason not to do it if you can't get in on a traditional loan. And frankly, I know a lot of guys with a lot of money, that's the way they've bought their homes, interest only, because there's no pay down happening. I marvel at it, and I don't really understand how the banks get away with, well, I know how they understand, it's all politics, front-loading all the interest on a home. It would seem to me you could spread that out more evenly.
Yeah, certainly as a buyer, I would like to do that, but I've never seen it done that way. Now, when you're selling homes to first-time home buyers, is the attitude among young people trying to get in to the market for the first time, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I just want to find a way to get my foot in the door. And once I get my foot in the door, then I can sell the house at a profit, and now I'm in the game, and then I have some options.
Yeah, most of them just want to find a way to get in. And quite frankly, I'm in the East Bay. I'm east of Oakland. I'm in what we call the Tri-Valley, Orinda, Alamo, Danville, San Ramon, those areas, Pleasanton. And you see a lot of first-time homeowners or buyers. Their parents are loaning them a big chunk of money up front. And then I'll tell you, we have a lot of different cultures here, and we have a lot of people in the tech industry. And those guys, hey, 300, 400, $1 million in the bank is no surprise.
Very common.
It's very common, and I talked to a finance guy who was a big financial officer for some of these tech companies. And not to get on a racial basis here, but he says when these guys go to work for a tech company in India, they get their stock options. And I'm not sure how it worked. It was pretty complicated. But he said when they come to the U.S., there's some benefit and their options increase. I guess they increase automatically, and that's part of how they get all this money. So, but if you're bent on owning a home, I would, if you get it at the right price, and whether you go 30, 40, 50 or interest only, if you want to stay in California, like in the East Bay or the Bay Area, then that's the way to do it. Personally, I don't think for a guy 40 or 41, I don't think renting is a hell of a bargain right now. You can rent a house, and if you want a home for investment purposes, get out of California and go buy yourself a couple of rentals in Nevada, Arizona, any of those places. They're good investments. They're even going to be better tax write-offs because you can depreciate the property, and you're going to build equity. So there's plenty of options. Years ago we had 40-year loans. Everybody forgets that. But there was a time when loans were 40 years. You could go 15, 20, 30, or 40, and nobody really gave it that much of a thought. But that's when the prices were getting cranked up, and they were just trying to do something to make it easier. So that lady that called on the 3.5% down, FHA is about 3.5% down. So you're not going to buy. And there may be some other loans. They make loans based on your assets now. There's all kinds of stuff going on.
All
She's
right. Well, thank you. I appreciate all the advice. Words of wisdom. Let's go to Klaus in Thousand Oaks. Klaus, hello.
Hey, John. Hey, Randy. So I'm going to give a different perspective here. I am 33 years old. Both my wife and I work and reasonably paying jobs. And right now we cannot afford to get into a home of our own. We want to. We don't want to. We would like to settle in a permanent home, Lord willing. And I don't know, this on the topic of financing your Chipotle burrito, that's how bad it's gotten financially in this country, where you have to finance just the most basic things. And a 50-year mortgage does not sound appealing. It just sounds like usury and practically renting slavery. And I wanted to give an origin story of this idea that came from Trump, which I got completely peeved about. So this 50-year mortgage idea came from the acting U.S. Federal Housing Director, Bill Plute. And apparently at a Mar-a-Lago meeting a couple of weeks ago, he had presented this idea to Trump, and he was pushing it and pushing it. And Trump was like, okay, I'll just post about it on my socials. Apparently, the White House staff got completely pissed off that this happened. And this Bill Fluke guy, he's currently a chairman of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac this year. So, and he's part of a large home building company in this country. I don't think, obviously there's an affordability problem, but there are other things that contribute to making life unaffordable. The cost of energy, and you know, it's a topic that comes on every day really on your show, is insurance. The racket and the politics and the corruption of insurance and taxes. And where does all this go?
And just everything else regarding the maintenance. You have to call an electrician. You have to call a plumber. You have someone cutting the grass at your house. You have any number of duties that used to be inexpensive are no longer inexpensive. I think I told the story earlier this week, maybe before I went on vacation. I live in an HOA, and the contract with the company, the landscaping company, came up. And year to year, they want to raise it on the HOA 30-something%, almost 40% in 1 year's time. For a big HOA, that's a ton of money. And people don't factor that into their monthly expenses, having something like having someone cut the grass and trim the trees and those sorts of things explode by 38% or whatever it was in 1 year's time. But we're all paying that right now. And there seems to be no relief in sight. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Jim in Texas. Jim, hello.
Well, hello there, Californians. After spending 42 years in California, I finally left and moved to Texas, which I'm very happy with, especially paying $2.25 a gallon for gas. But anyway, I wanted to get to you on the mortgage. Japan has what they call multi-generational mortgages that go 50 and up to 100 years, not just the 30 years that we're used to here.
And that's because grandma and grandpa live with their kids and they live with the grandkids and everyone lives under one roof.
Yes. But they do have 50, 100-year mortgages in Japan. It's something that they've been doing for a long time.
Well, the only thing worse than a 100-year loan is having to live with 3 generations of your own family.
Well, I'm not saying it's always fun, but it is. They do offer it as an option because housing is so expensive, especially in Tokyo.
All right. Thank you for the call.
The houses are also much tinier.
Leave your shoes at the door. Let's go to Kathy in Lake Forest. Kathy, hello.
Good afternoon. I just want to make a quick point. First of all, I'm a native Californian, and I probably had 5 or 6 houses. I don't think anybody buys a house and stays in it for 50 years, or even 30 years, or even 20 years. It seems like the point is to get these people in the game so they have a house, they can build up some equity, they can sell it, use the equity to buy something else, but it's just to get them in. Don't you think?
I think that's the reasoning behind it. Now, in terms of leaving after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, yeah, a lot of people do that. But you certainly, and that's part of the reason why they have, a 10-year fixed, and then it turns into an adjustable rate. That's a popular type of mortgage that they sell.
That's the gambler's mortgage.
But let me tell you, you better gamble the right way if you do something like that. Because if you plan on staying there for a long time and you're stuck with a bad loan, then that's going to be hung around your neck like a noose. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Ed in Clear Lake. Ed, hello.
Gentlemen, I love the show. How are you today?
Good.
Good to hear you're back, John. I hope you enjoyed your vacation. So here's the thing that I think is a big issue. Firstly, I bought a home on a residential lot, 50 by 100. There's no lot fees or anything like that. I own the property. 2-bedroom, 2-bath, $60,000. Now, given I had to remodel this entire property, I had to gut the thing. I'm a contractor, so that's fine. But doing the work myself, I'm in under 100, and it's a owned home. My property taxes are around $1,100 a year, and the notion that we need to perpetuate debt makes everything inflated. The notion that we're going to take on a longer-term obligation of debt and to normalize that is very catastrophic to the bottom line. The reason that there's multi-million-dollar homes in California is people are willing to take on these higher prices because they don't look at the overall value. They look at if they can afford to make the payment. And then they just saddle themselves with 30, 40, 50 years is now proposed of debt. It's not a good solution. With automobiles, people shouldn't be paying $60,000 for a vehicle unless they have $60,000. And to teach people that $250,000, $300,000 for an education to go to college is an acceptable thing to do with no guaranteed outcome, it's normalizing debt, and what that does is generate property taxes, which is a huge thing for the state.
Well, it also changes the politics. It changes the politics to have people in that kind of debt, because then you start to feel like a serf. And once you start to feel like a serf, you start voting for people like Mamdani, because he's promising you all the bells and whistles in life for free. You look at what groups of people voted for that candidate in New York City. He was most popular among young people, specifically young people with college degrees. These people go out and get college degrees that cost a fortune. They're in subjects that have no practical use. They then can't find a job that will allow them to pay off that debt on those degrees and then do things like become a homeowner or buy a car that they're interested in driving or travel around the globe or do any of the things that their parents did. And it leads to resentment and entitlement, and that results in socialists getting elected to office, and that's the last thing we need.
So having a country that's run on a credit score notion is really a socialist concept in the first place. We shouldn't be running on credit. If someone wants an apple, they should go and work and make some money and buy the apple. If someone wants a car, they should work, get a jalopy from the junkyard, whatever gets you back and forth to work, and you save your money. And, that was what made this country as strong economically as it was, is people were driven because you didn't get something until you saved your money and you earned it. To give things out to people with an expectation that they're going to default on that debt and it'll be a national issue is the base of a socialist concept, that we're absorbing that debt. When these lending agencies have defaulted loans, they're going to have some sort of incorporated deduction, and that's going to come out of taxpayer dollars. So we're just giving people things in the hope that they'll pay for them, and that's completely absurd.
Well, part of the reason that this country works, in my opinion, is that we were founded by the Puritans, and the Puritans believed in not living beyond your means. And when you don't live beyond your means, you end up with a surplus, and you end up with a rainy day fund and all of the things that come to be handy when something bad happens. And right now, that's not how a lot of people live. That's not how the government operates. And that leads to a whole lot of problems, including elections like what we just saw in New York City. Thank you for the call. The president says 50-year mortgages may be something that could be useful to people if they want to become homeowners. What say you at 800-222-5222? Let's go to Mark in Morgan Hill. Mark, hello.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. Okay, I bought my first house when I was 20 years old. I just turned 69 last week. When I moved out of the house, I wanted to live in my own place. But paying rent, you're just wasting money. And a very dear friend, no longer with us, said, if you buy a place, you're going to have a tax-deductible payment that was close to a house I was going to rent anyway. So I bought the house. At the end of the year, when I got my tax money back, basically the government subsidized it for about 25% because I was on a 25% bracket. Wrote off the $40,000 payment or $48,000 in payments. I got about 25% back. So it was $13,000 more than I would have ever got on my tax return because I bought a house. I used that money to help me get by and or pay down the principal. Now, we're talking only $400 back 40 years or 50 years ago. 40 years ago. But it works today. I've got so many people into homes by telling them the first year is going to be the toughest, but you're going to have that big deduction where rent you cannot write off. So it's helped them. I had one guy pay his house off in 20 years. Every year he calculated it with the payment as a deduction or renting, blah, blah, blah. And he took that money and put it on the principal. 50-year loan, no big deal. You get the loan, you get in it, you start making more money, you just pay more on it. You can make that 50-year loan a 30-year loan by just paying a little extra as you get raises. But the whole thing is getting in to begin with. And that's what is hurting people right now, is getting in to begin with. And that's my take on it. I own 7 properties. I collect rent on 6 of them. Everything is paid off. Life is great. Trust me.
All right. There you go. Dave Ramsey without the Southern twang.
Well, I've even called it on his show, and he doesn't even bring up the fact that you're going to have that tax deduction versus rent. Again, I keep repeating myself. And if you're in a 30% bracket, then the government's giving you 30% back on what you paid on your house, because most of it's interest anyway. As you pay it down, obviously, it's less. But then you're making more money. I haven't had one person ever I've had many come to me and thank me, and I've had 0 people ever complain or say, you steered me wrong.
Well, we know that the government likes to punish us with taxes when there's a sin tax. They don't want us smoking cigarettes, so there are extra taxes on that. They punish you for it. They don't want you drinking sugary sodas, so they have taxes on that. But they do want you to own a home, so that's how you get the deduction. So if they're going to offer it, you might as well take it. Good advice here. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Stephanie in Thousand Oaks. Stephanie, hello.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon. I just wanted to make a quick comment. We had a 30-year loan, my husband and I, and we refinanced it at least 12 times over the years and actually just paid it off. So just because again, it's just getting your foot in the door.
All right. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Dan in Benicia. Dan, hello.
Hi, it's Dan in Benicia. I would just like to say that this idea of a 50-year mortgage is nothing new, but it's absolutely brilliant. The 40-year mortgage has been kicked around for a long time. As a matter of fact, I think I remember Hillary Clinton kicking the idea around some time ago, and she felt that everybody should own a home, which is completely absurd. But the point being is that what a 50-year loan will offer you if you're not renting is security and stability. I'm a landlord. I own several properties, and I'm a good landlord, and my rents are reasonable. If I go to sell a building, the rent, let's say for a person that I'm renting to, I'm asking $1,500 for the rent. It's going to double to $3,000, or that new owner is going to say, "I'm sorry, but you have to move. I'm going to move my family in there, or I'm moving in myself." So these people are uprooted. Their children are uprooted. They can't go to the neighborhood schools that they normally would. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea. And they can also, the point's already been made, to refinance this loan when the interest rates come down. I think it's a win-win all the way around.
All right, there you go. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Steve in Silicon Valley. Steve, welcome.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Good.
Perfect. Hey, I'm self-employed, and I was stuck where I had to put 31% down cash. They froze my bank accounts for 2 months, credit cards, everything. And then I had to take a Freddie Mac course and pass it by 80% 2 weeks before close. So I think a lot of the problem is the down payment, and that's my say on it, all right?
Yeah, the down payment certainly keeps a lot of people out because it's hard. If you're going to put 20% down, and we know that homes are going for, I mean, what is a median home cost right now in the state of California?
About $700,000 to $800,000.
Yeah, I mean, good luck coming up with that down payment if you're a middle class person. That is a huge impediment. And that is something that the banks really moved on after the 2008 crash, where they were loaning money to people who shouldn't have been homeowners.
No money down.
Yeah. And then how'd that work out? And now it's 20% down, and now that's a massive hurdle, and a lot of people just can't get over it. Thank you for the call.
Boy, that era was so wild, especially if you worked in radio, because every single commercial on the radio was a mortgage company trying to get you to refi at 0.1%.
And then all of the people, you have a certain idea of what bankers look like in your head. The new Treasury Secretary, Bessent, he looks like a banker to me. Doesn't he look like a banker to you?
A little bit.
Okay. All of those people, all of those lenders that were enticing you to take 0% down loans in the 2000s, didn't they look like prostitutes?
It was a wild time to be in the real estate game.
Let's go to John in Redwood City. John, hello.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. Early on, I bought a house with a friend of mine back in 1977 on the peninsula. At that time, I was on a okay paying job. It was 3 times my annual salary. That was the price of the house. Mortgage was only about $500 a month, which we split. Today, after I retired, if I were to buy that same house, it would be 10 to 15 times my annual salary. And my salary had gone up over the years. We have fiat money. We have inflation, and nobody seems to recognize it. I've seen it time and time again. Californians go up to Oregon. They throw money at it because they got a ton of it. The locals can't afford the houses because all of a sudden the prices go up, and it's not good to have a California license plate. Same thing happened in Indianapolis. I've seen it time and time again. We have a fiat money problem. And if we don't get a control of it, we will be bankrupt. At any rate, that's pretty much my comment. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Well, thank you for the call, and you're right. If you drive into some of those states with the California license plate, people aren't telling you you're number one.
It's funny. We had someone call in a few minutes ago that talked about, people moving to like Portugal. Do you remember during COVID, people were putting up signs in Lisbon, Californians, stop moving here.
Well, that's a Mediterranean climate too. Let's go to Dave in Long Beach. Dave, hello.
Hey guys, I listen every day, 3 hours a day. I've been in the mortgage business 25 years. The average home is actually, at least in Southern California a couple months ago, was $1.2 million, and what you needed to qualify for on the average borrower was $361,000. So I'm pretty much out of work right now. And part of the reason why the housing market's gone up is 3 reasons. 1, foreign money's come in and bought up a lot of the property. 2, BlackRock is buying up 30% of the property everywhere. And 3, COVID. For some reason, property values doubled, and I don't know what we're going to do about it, but it's the 50-year mortgage, that's not going to happen. I would doubt it. And then also regarding the assumable mortgages that Trump and them are trying to do, that's not going to happen either because lenders aren't going to take that risk. You still have to qualify for the higher rate, and that's not going to happen. So, no.
Okay, let me add a third one in there, or let me propose a third one, and you're in the industry, so you'd know more than I do on this. But a friend of mine who's a local elected official here in Southern California said that one of the big problems is that after the crash in 2008 and the banks got real strict with who they'd give money to, it wasn't just home buyers who they got strict with. They got strict with developers and people who were in the industry. And a lot of homes that were supposed to be built never got built after the crash in 2008. So you'll have developments that were supposed to be completed in different phases where they just stopped in 2008, and whatever phase was completed is what's there today, and the rest of them never got built. And there's a lot of inventory that we should have had that never happened because of that crash.
I don't know much about that. I know along like the 133 coming from like RSM down into Irvine, there was a bunch of development that stopped in 08 and that eventually got rebuilt. Another thing that, again, I wish someone would ask these politicians on the left side of the aisle, Their policies is what driving up housing prices because it costs 30% more here to build a home in California than it does in Arizona and Nevada because of our environmental standards. So if people just aren't building homes, it's insane. Like I think it was you mentioned earlier, somebody mentioned there's been 1 million properties that could have been built in the last 20 years, but they can't do it because it's just too expensive. And part of the problem, too, is the Republicans don't know how to argue properly. They don't show the people that the Democratic Party policies are what's causing the housing crisis. It's insane.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. But right now it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, we can call this one the Sir Mix-a-Lot edition.
Somebody got sentenced for giving illegal butt injections. And don't giggle too much. Someone died.
Well, they should have known that surgery is not supposed to happen in a transgender's garage.
For more, here's ABC 7 Eyewitness News in Los Angeles.
New at 5, the woman who killed a Malibu actress after giving her a silicone butt injection was...
Oh, boy.
Who wants butt injections these days?
People with no butt.
How much money do you have and how much boredom do you have to have where you look at yourself in the mirror and you say to yourself, you know what would make me look more attractive? If my ass looked like the lips of every Real Housewife.
And was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. The actress died in March of an embolism caused by that procedure. Inland Empire Bureau Chief.
If you're going to get butt injections, don't go on the cheap.
No. You're going to need something that looks real surgical. It's not Fix-A-Flat.
Inland Empire Bureau Chief Rob McMillan has more from the courtroom.
Lydia Dame sentenced to 15 years to life in prison for the murder of Hollywood actress Cindiana Santangelo after injecting silicone into her butt for cosmetic surgery, a procedure that ended with Santangelo's death. The victim's husband speaking out in court this morning.
We've had our whole life.
Aren't there more natural ways to increase the size of your ass, like fast food?
Yeah, Hostess, Little Debbie. There's any number of natural ways to make this happen.
We've had our whole life turned upside down. I'll never have my best friend and wife again.
It happened on March 24th this year when Adame went to Santangelo's Malibu home to perform the procedure.
That's not a doctor's office.
Wait. You're going to have surgery at someone's house?
Sure, it's all above board.
What's going on inside the laundry room? A dental office?
While she was there, Santangelo started experiencing difficulty breathing. The judge explaining what happened next.
Unbeknownst to the victim, the silicone oil had migrated from the injection site to the bloodstream. The victim's circulatory system thereafter moved the silicone oil into her lungs, which prevented the lungs from obtaining oxygen for the body, which led to her death.
Why don't you get a tattoo? I had my boyfriend's name tattooed on me.
Santangelo was an actress who starred in TV shows like Married with Children and Young MC's Bust a Move music video. The victim's son also speaking out today.
Okay, wait a minute. I love Married with Children, but it's been a while since they've made any new episodes.
Well, if her most recent credits are a television show that started airing in 1987 and a music video from 1991, I think we know what we're dealing with here.
Okay, so do you think she just wanted her ass to be bigger, or do you think her ass was sagging and she wanted to make sure that it wasn't dragging on the ground?
I did not expect this to happen.
I'm not going to be speaking ill of the dead, John.
Well, I'm not speaking ill of the dead. I'm just trying to psychoanalyze a woman.
I did not expect this to happen, my wildest dreams, and, I'm all for the law and everyone to get a fair chance. But I just don't think someone that has no regard for human life or anything like that should be allowed back on the street, because clearly this is something that's happened multiple times.
Oh, yeah, this wasn't the first time.
Oh, no. And what do you think the odds are when this woman goes to the big house that the doctor is going to be performing surgery behind bars? I've watched plenty of Orange is the New Black. If you were a beautician on the outside, guess what you did on the inside? You were doing everyone's hair with the highlights and the weaves and all of that. And if this woman is doing black market ass lifts on the outside, she's going to be doing that in the kitchen, in the prison.
He's referring to the fact that Adame was convicted of involuntary manslaughter just last year. After
You don't check your illicit surgeon for references before you decide to go under the knife at their house?
Yeah, did Blue Cross pay for that too?
After killing someone else doing the same kind of procedure. This time, not only was Adame convicted of second-degree murder, but practicing medicine without a certificate. Adame's attorney filed a motion for a new trial.
There is no direct evidence of her guilt. She has never admitted to anybody having done anything.
Well, she did the surgery, and the butt lift ended up killing somebody twice. I'd say that's a pretty definitive cause.
Yeah, well, I know a different fake doctor that killed more people.
Done the injections. Nobody has ever seen her do the injections.
A motion the judge later denied before issuing the sentence. Rob McMillan, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
There you go. The doctor who has killed at least 2 people with fake butt injections, well, going away to prison for a very, 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 very long time. This is California, though. I'm sure she'll be up for parole any day now.
What do you do to them if they're in prison for illegal butt injections that caused the death of 2 people? What do you do when you catch them doing it again in prison?
What do they even use?
They figure out a way to do tattoos in prison.
The gruel from the cafeteria?
I don't know.